Welcome to this deep dive, everybody. We're really getting into it today, exploring Thich Nhat Hanh's The Heart of the Buddha's Teaching. And let me tell you, this book is packed. So we're going to try to unpack what's really going to resonate, make a difference, almost like your cheat sheet to getting Buddha-wise, but fast.
Exactly. We're talking core principles, how they actually play out in your life, and honestly, even some links you might not expect.
Right. Like, okay, when most people hear Buddhism, they think suffering. But this book, it doesn't just say life is a bummer. It digs into the mechanics of it all and, thankfully, how to actually change things.
Totally. And it's not about just accepting suffering, it's transforming it. Thich Nhat Hanh, he makes this comparison of the Buddha as like a doctor for your soul,
Okay.
diagnosing the suffering, but giving you the path to actually heal.
I like that, yeah. And the book starts with Buddha reaching enlightenment, which I thought was cool. It really puts joy, hope, front and center, not just the tough stuff.
Yeah, and immediately dispels that myth that it's all about being super strict and austere. Buddha himself rejected that. It was actually hurting him.
So finding that middle ground is key, not just in meditating, but like life in general.
100%.
Now, the book dives into the Four Noble Truths, and I got to be honest, those can sound kind of heavy at first.
They can seem daunting, but they're surprisingly useful. Think of them as like the instruction manual for this whole thing. You've got realizing you're suffering, why you're suffering, the fact that you can stop suffering, and then, okay, how to actually do it.
And this is where it clicks for me. There's this example. A student at a party, everyone seems happy, right?
Mm-hmm.
But underneath, the student senses this current of anxiety. Like, we mistake hiding the suffering for actual happiness.
All the time. We try to ignore it, but Thich Nhat Hanh, he's like, lean into it. That's where the real joy is.
Not your typical advice. Then there's this nutrients idea. And usually you think food, right? But he includes everything. What you see, think, even your intentions. It's like, there's junk food for your mind, too.
It's true. Shapes your whole reality. He even talks about kids watching violent TV for hours. That's got to be toxic, right?
No wonder everyone's stressed. So we got to be picky about what we feed our minds, just like our bodies.
Exactly. Healthy choices inside and out. It's like he connects those nutrients right back to the Four Noble Truths, If we're always taking in negativity, we're kind of choosing to suffer in a way.
We're holding on tight to those bad thoughts, those emotions, which isn't that part of what keeps us stuck in that suffering loop? The second noble truth?
Exactly. But here's the good news. We can stop scarfing down that mental junk food, just like with the real stuff.
Okay, that's kind of empowering when you put it like that. Like, liberation isn't this far off thing, but just making better choices day to day.
Right. And that leads us to another biggie in the book, right speech.
See, now that one always makes me nervous.
Yeah.
Because it's not just about, like, not lying, right? It's deeper than that.
It is. Thich Nhat Hanh, he says deep listening, that's the base, the foundation for right speech. Got to get the other person before you can even start talking right.
There's this story that really got me. Zen monk walking with his teacher, right? Beautiful goose flies over, but the monk's so in his head, he misses it completely. Teacher's like, dude, the goose was right there, but you weren't.
So good. That's us, though, isn't it? We're just waiting to talk, not really listening, missing out on everything going on right now because we're stuck up here.
Talk about missing half the conversation. And then speaking from that place, that can't lead to anything good.
Nope. You're coming from ego then, not real connection.
So right speech, it's like your words got to match your deepest intention, and that comes from actually hearing someone, which this all ties together, right? The nutrients, the truths, it's all connected.
It absolutely is. And when you zoom out, right speech, that's how you build good relationships, good communities. That's how we work through arguments, actually understand each other.
It's amazing how he does that, brings it all together, Like, it all matters for how we feel at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, he talks about impermanence, which is always kind of mind-bending.
It is a tough one. We want things to stay the same, but like he says, change is the only thing that's constant.
That wave analogy, right? We cling to who we think we are, but we're like the water itself, always moving, but always there.
Yeah. And he doesn't say to fear that, but to celebrate it. No change, no growth, no chance to become something new.
I like that take on it.
Yeah.
But then if everything changes, what about nirvana? Is that impermanent too?
That's where Thich Nhat Hanh's take is so cool. It's not some heaven you get to later. It's available right now.
Love that. There's that story the monk asks his master, where's this place beyond life and death? And the master goes, right in the middle of it.
See, Bray, we're looking everywhere for what's already here.
It's like looking for your keys while you're holding them.
Totally. Nirvana, it's about Dropping the idea that we're separate, seeing that we're all part of this one thing. We're already whole.
Not about getting something, but letting go of thinking we need something.
Exactly. And that's where the peace is, the real freedom. No more always wanting, always grasping.
This deep dive is really making me rethink, like, my whole view on Buddhism, you know? It's not just ideas, it's how you live.
It really is. And this book, it's not just theory. It's like the step-by-step guide. How to actually do mindfulness, compassion, wisdom, all that.
So for our listener, ready to actually put this into practice, what are some things they should really keep in mind? So many great takeaways already. What would you say are the most important things for our listener to remember as they explore these teachings?
Well, first off, those nutrients. Seriously, be aware of what you're taking in, not just food, but everything. Like, you feed your body good stuff, right? Do the same for your mind.
It's true. We're always on that mental diet, whether we realize it or not.
100%. And speaking of which, Thich Nhat Hanh talks about right diligence, which I love. It's not about forcing yourself into some strict routine. You got to make mindfulness fun, something you can actually stick with.
The analogy he uses, the musician tuning their instrument, too tight, too loose, it's all going to sound bad. You got to find that sweet spot.
Yes, right. Diligence, that's what it's about, that balance. Effort, yeah, but also ease. Approaching it with like genuine curiosity, not this feeling of, ooh, I have to. And that applies to like all this stuff, really.
This deep dive has been honestly eye-opening. I feel like I get what Thich Nhat Hanh was going for, you know, at a whole new level.
And it's not just about getting it in your head, right? It's about it actually changing how you live.
Not knowing the Four Noble Truths, but actually, you know, living them.
Right. Pay attention to what you let in. Really listen to people. Remember that change is inevitable. And most importantly, cultivate love and compassion. For yourself, for others, that's where the real peace comes from, the happiness.
And that whole thing about nirvana not being some far-off thing, man, that's freeing. We can experience joy right here, right now. We don't got to wait for it.
It's true. It's all about the choices we make right now. And even the little ones, they can make a difference, not just in our own lives, but for everyone around us.
That's pretty inspiring when you think about it.
Yeah.
So as we wrap this up, what's like the one thing you want our listener to walk away with? Something they can use starting today.
You know, Thich Nhat Hanh, he really drives home this point. True happiness. It comes from cultivating love and compassion. And not just for other people, for ourselves too. That's not some pie-in-the-sky idea. It's something you practice, something you get better at every day. Like that musician tuning their instrument, you know?
I love that. That feels like the perfect note to end on. We've gone deep on these core principles, the Four Noble Truths, right speech, how change is actually a good thing, and most importantly, how to make all of this real in your life, not just some theory.
Exactly. It's not about becoming a Buddhist. It's about becoming more awake, more compassionate, just more alive. And who doesn't want that, right?
It's true. It's not about joining a club. It's about changing yourself from the inside out.
And I think that's what Thich Nhat Hanh was so good at, you know, showing us that love and compassion, they're not just like nice ideas, they're skills, and you get better with practice. Every mindful action, every breath, every time you connect with someone.
And that story, that monk, choosing compassion even when someone was being so awful to him, that really stayed with me.
Yeah, it shows you how powerful understanding can be, empathy. Even when things are dark, you have a choice. You can choose love, not hate.
And by doing that, you break the cycle, right? It's
Right.
not just you. It ripples out, makes things a little better, even in a small way.
100%. It all starts with us, those individual choices we make. Every little bit of kindness, every time you're really present, every word you say with compassion, it all adds up.
So to everyone listening, this was just a taste. But hopefully it got you curious, gave you some things to think about, maybe even try out in your own life.
The real practice starts now. Take the stuff out into the world. Pay attention to what you let in, really listen to each other, and never forget true peace, true happiness. It's closer than you think.
And as Thich Nhat Hanh said, waking up this morning, I smile. 24 brand new hours are before me. What will you do with yours?
Yeah.